Oh yeah, no big deal, eh? Lego going out there and making yet another video talking about Lane Hutson. And you know what? While it is a repetitive topic, while Canadiens fans may be in a spot where some of y'all are saying, man, you're just milking the existence of this guy, Lego, I'm not going to go out there and disagree. At the same time, I feel like conversation around Lane Hutson and the Montreal Canadiens has picked up tremendously outside of the Montreal-specific bubble that it all kind of warrants getting talked about once more. I wanted to go over two comments made about Lane Hutson in the past few days here. One from Scott Wheeler on The Athletic, and another by the folks over on the Spit and Chicklets crew. This is a podcast episode on The Athletic's hockey show. Is Mishkov or Celebrini the Calder favorite? And the reason we are bringing up this podcast episode is because of a comment made by Scott Wheeler about Lane Hutson. According to Wheeler, Hutson is the second best defenseman of the 2022 draft after Simon Nemec. And this is a really interesting thought that I wanted to dive into in this video here. Because essentially, if you mapped everything out, second best defenseman in the draft would equate to being a top 5 pick in 2022. Let me explain. You see, Lane Hutson was drafted in the second round of 2022's draft, 62nd overall by the Montreal Canadiens. The list I'm looking at right here is the list of D-men selected in this group of guys. You have number 2, Simon Nemec, number 6, David Jiricek, number 7, Kevin Korchinski, number 10, Pavel Mintyukov, number 12, Denton Mateychuk, number 18, Leon Bichelle, number 21, you have Owen Pickering, 25, Sam Renzel, 29, Maverick Lamoureux, 36, Artyom Duda, 37, Ryan Chesley, 42, you've got Nolan Warren, 45, Matthias Havlid, 46, Seamus Casey, 50, Christian Kyrou, 53, Tristan Luneau, 55, Elias Salamonson, and then 62, Lane Hutson. There were literally, 4, 8, 12, 16, 17 defensemen drafted above Hutson in the 2022 NHL Draft. And just scanning the list, there's no way in hell Lane Hutson should have been ranked lower than, let's just say, Maverick Lamoureux, for example, Ryan Chesley, Matthias Havlid, as much as I like him. A lot of these guys do have talent, and it's understandable to see why they would have been taken where they were. It's just for Lane Hutson, we kind of recognized he was small, and that was always going to be a knock on him and his profile. Hey, a small, mobile, puck-moving defenseman, that guy's gonna get bullied in the NHL. It was the old Quinn Hughes conversation, except Hutson did not have the same draft pedigree like Quinn did in 2018. Although, to be honest, Lane Hutson has had better numbers compared to Quinn Hughes throughout the entire span that he's developed so far. But either way, I wanted to use this idea by Scott Wheeler, projecting Hutson as a top-of-the-line pick. Because if he was better than all the other defensemen in the draft class except for Simon Nemec, that would put him right above David Jiricek, who was taken in that 6th overall spot. If you wanted to map everything out, would it be appropriate to consider Lane Hutson as a top 5 guy? If you wanted to talk about the top 10, it went as follows: Slavkovsky, Nemec, Cooley, Wright, Gauthier, Jiricek, Korchinski, Kasper Savoy, and Pavel Mintyukov as the final name. Would you rather have Lane Hutson than Matthew Savoy, for example, or Marco Kasper, or David Jiricek, or Cutter Gauthier? I feel like there is a realistic and honestly rational argument to say that Lane Hutson should potentially be valued higher than these other guys. Heck, do you even want to push it and say Lane Hutson is a more valuable ad than a guy like Shane Wright at this point in his career? In fact, I want to talk about Wright later in today's show, going over his projection and what he could do in 2024-2025. But with Lane Hutson's dominance, establishing himself amongst all the other defenders in the draft class as a steal of a pick, where he was taken in number 62, it kind of begs the question, just how good of a pick was that, and how far does it take him in a redraft? I'll tell you this, he's going top 10 for sure. I'd rather have Lane Hutson than Denton Mateychuk or Noah Östlund or Joakim Kemmel. There are a bunch of guys that I would definitely take Lane Hutson over, but that's kind of where the conversation gets a little bit muddy when you go into the top of the line of the draft class. Now, you can answer that question in the comments section below. Is Lane Hutson a top 5 caliber talent if he squeaks in underneath Cutter Gauthier at number 5 and above David Jiricek at number 6? Does he crack a top 5 in a redraft? Would you rather say you'd get him in over Gauthier or a Shane Wright? Does that make sense? Obviously, Slafkovsky is going to still be there, especially when you consider that Montreal Canadiens fans are going to be the ones determining whether or not they'd move a guy around. But other than the Canadiens fans, I wanted to go out there and talk about a comment made by Ryan Whitney on the Spit and Chicklets podcast, because this was posted all over social media. It's the Spit and Chicklets clip talking about Lane Hutson, and Whit absolutely glazes the guy in the best way possible. He says that Lane Hutson's vision, his puck skills, his IQ, his edges, it's all there. Paul Biznasty says that Lane Hutson is like a hybrid of Quinn Hughes and Adam Fox. And Whit then also says that Lane Hutson has a very realistic chance at winning the Calder Trophy, getting, let's say, a 50-point season as a rookie defenseman in the NHL. Now, obviously, it's great to see other mainstream media people going out there and hyping up Lane Hutson, especially since Whit and Biz aren't necessarily Montreal Canadiens fans. But you have to think about a lot of what he had said there, Whit that is, because I don't necessarily know if it's going to go down like that. Sure, it's great to see people hyping up Lane Hutson and acknowledging the talent that he has, but to say that he's guaranteed to be getting first-line power play minutes like Whit did in the clip, I'm sorry, I just don't really know if that's going to happen, mostly because of the existence of Mike Matheson. Not that Matheson should be getting top power play minutes over Lane Hutson. It's just the guy was one of the top scoring defensemen in the NHL last season as the number 1 power play dude. Martin St. Louis, the Montreal Canadiens, they have no reason to not utilize him in that role still. And the entire idea of having multiple defensemen on the first unit, go Matheson, Hutson, and then, I don't know, Caulfield, Suzuki, Slafkovsky, I don't really think that's the move either, because they would probably want to have a shooter like Patrick Laine, a right-handed guy, as the other point man, to kind of set up those one-time bombs on the OV spot. If anything, as we had talked about over the past few months here, Lane Hutson and Mike Matheson are probably going to battle it out for the right to keep that first power play spot. I can totally see a world where Lane Hutson eventually takes over the number 1 power play duty out of Mike Matheson, where he eventually fades away to number 2 and Hutson kind of takes over in points. I can see a world where both of them kind of finish off with the same point production. But realistically, if it ends up being in that 50-55 point range, I do agree with Whit here that Hutson does have a legitimate chance at winning the Calder Trophy, considering the defenseman scoring always is a little bit lower, and a lot of eyes are going to be on Hutson. I mean, it's going to be him or Macklin Celebrini that ends up running away with this thing. 2 BU teammates that are going to be suiting up in their teams for the first year in their NHL careers. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about Hutson being a top 5 projected caliber talent in the 2022 draft, as well as his Calder odds. Things are heating up for this player, man, and it's great. I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.